I'm going to call to order the regular meeting agenda of the Parks and Recreation Commission Playground Working Group, Thursday, September 28th, 2023, 8:48 a.m. The first item on our agenda is the update on the McGuan Playground. I guess that's you, Pam.
Yeah, want to do that at the end and let Mike get started?
Okay, we'll move that to the end and have Mike Stankina from Game Time start his presentation on the playground design for Cherry Lawn Park. Thank you.
Great pronunciation on my last name. A lot of people struggle and fumble through that, so that was fantastic, Susan. Thank you so much. Pam, do you want to go ahead and share your screen so I can go through a little bit of the background history?
I thought it was it's on. You can grab hold. I didn't change any of it yet. There you go.
Everybody see my screen? Yep. Okay. So I was going through this last night, and I guess the best way to present what I did from a design standpoint is to show you what is there now and kind of why I designed both playgrounds the way that I designed them. So I think the best way is just to kind of show you what is there at Cherry Lawn and kind of talk through any situations or issues that you may have. Please stop me at any time if you have any questions or comments whatsoever. And I'm just going to kind of take you through the process of what Pam and I have kind of talked through and worked through in the last, it's been 18 months, I guess. So I'll do that. And if you have any questions, please stop me and we'll take it from there. So what I'm going to do is basically just share images that I have of what's currently existing there at Cherry Lawn. So let's start with that. Then I'll show you what I came up with and why. And then we'll go through pricing. And I know that there's somebody else coming on, I think at 9:15 or 9:20. So I'll try to be as brief as I can. So let's start with the 2 to 5. I'm gonna kind of bop around a little bit. If it gets too confusing or spinny in your head, let me know. I don't want to make anyone get sick at 8:51 in the morning. I also just woke up very recently, so there it is. All right, so let's start with the 2 to 5. Here's some images of the 2 to 5 space. You have some spring riders that are from a company called Compan, which is one of our competitors. They're probably presenting at some point for this park as well. But you have 3 spring riders here. You have a longer one set of what is this? A triple bay swings. This is along the back edge of the 2 to 5 when you first walk in. I took a lot of shots of the perimeter because I really didn't know how we were going to set up the perimeter. So this is essentially where the gazebo is. The gazebo's going, as far as I can tell. That's what I was explained. So the gazebo is getting taken out. It's included in our removal and disposal price quote. Here are 2 units, both Echo units. This is one right here, and this is the second one. One is a 2 to 5, and one is a 6 to 23 month. Which is pretty rare in the industry. That's only really come about in the last, say, 8 to 10 years. Generally speaking, the age group for playground equipment has been 2 to 5 and 5 to 12. So having a 6 to 23 month is kind of cool. And I think that's this piece right here. That really is for kids that are just kind of figuring out how to take steps, how to walk. But these units, I think what the allure for Pam was they're small from a footprint standpoint, but they pack a lot of activities into them. So these 2 units are currently there now, and they're staying. So my job is to kind of design around these 2 units staying. Essentially, Pam just told me, "Here's what we have. Go to town, do your thing." And so what I wanted to do was, especially in the 2 to 5, you have a nice already enclosed area Whether or not you're going to replace the fence or not is up to you. I personally don't think it needs it. And there's a nice 90-degree walkway in there. So I designed around both of those with the assumption that I'm going to leave these two pieces of equipment, and I'm going to keep the sidewalk in place. It's a nice sidewalk. It's not beat up or anything. And we're going to keep the fenced area. And so my quote and design is based on those factors. Everything, not everything, these two units staying and the sidewalk staying. And we're going to try to reuse and recycle some of the old compound parts just because it makes sense to do that. And I'll get to that at some point. Another just picture of the fence. I didn't know what we were doing initially with regard to having an entire mulched area, having a combination of mulch poured in place. Again, looking at the fence seems like it's in good shape. So I don't think you want to get rid of that and spend another 30, 40, 50K on a new fence. The fence is in good shape, so the fence is staying, I think, in my opinion. Here's another shot of kind of along the side. I was concerned about the perimeters because I didn't know, again, what kind of border system we were going to use. It turns out we're not going to have to interfere with the fence at all. So, just another shot of the 2 to 5 space. Here's another long shot heading toward a gazebo, which we know is going. But this area is a little tricky because literally from that fence down to where you see the mulch, there's probably an 18-inch elevation change. So you have to kind of take that into consideration when you're designing. That essentially just means you can't get right up to the fence when you're making your design. You have to be a little bit off of that unless you want the contractor to, scoop all that grass out. And so what happens when you are standing in the park and you look at the fence is installed, but there's an 18-inch gap between where the fence ends and the bottom of, or the start of the poured in place starts. So you want to try to not unsettle that as much as possible, if that makes sense. So leaving this little kind of hill here, is, essentially what I did was I just kind of designed a few feet off of the fence. Is a long way of explaining what I try to do. Some overshots of trees overhanging. So I think right here, this branch probably needs to go. I mean, generally speaking, installers don't like to install in what's called the drip edge of the tree. This part definitely overhangs the playground area. So I don't think this tree has to go. In fact, I would say it shouldn't go. I would keep it as is. Having trees in an area like this is great. Kids love to climb trees. Obviously, it provides an element of shade. It's not a dying tree from what I can tell. I'm not an arborist or anything, but it looks to be in good shapes. But some trimming back of the branches, I think, is in order. And that's something that Pam can take care of. This is essentially just a walkway up to the parking lot. It's great to have. It's great for ADA accessibility. That's kind of what the theme was of this playground, was to make it an ADA accessible playground. And I think we accomplished that. So this is the first picture that really starts the design element. You can see, obviously, that a lot of the mulch, this is a good thing, believe it or not. Having playground mulch kind of spread over to your walkway is a good thing. And what I mean by that is, it means that Pam and the folks at Darien are doing their job. They're making sure that the playground, it has enough impact attenuating safety surfacing to be under the existing equipment. A lot of playgrounds I go to, you're literally walking around on like a layer of wooden mulch that has deteriorated to the point of like a dust, and it doesn't provide any kind of impact attenuation whatsoever. So seeing all this mulch here is a good thing. Here's the walkway. The walkway I intend to keep or to stay. These two spinning compound elements I also think should stay. They're in working order. They're in good shape. I'll move this picnic table a little bit because it's a little close to this spinning element. But other than that, this is kind of the start of where my design begins, keeping these two elements. The next step, if you are walking this way on the path toward the gazebo, what I envision is to take these 3 spring riders and put them parallel to where those spinning elements are. And I can show you, bear with me here. Let me just figure out how to grab this. Okay. So here is the space that we're talking about right here. There's a spinning element right here from compan, a spinning element right here from compan. The other 3 spring riders are right here in present day. So I'm going to take those and move those essentially to this space. So as you walk up the path, the whole right side is going to be compan spring riders. We're going to take those out and relocate them. Here are your 2 existing game time pieces, which are
quick question.
Yes, please.
Sorry. If you move those other spring riders to that side, are we still have enough clearance to put some picnic tables?
Probably not. I think the area that I measured from this post or this sidewalk to the fence is about 20 feet. And the U zone, which is the footprint of the spring rider itself, and the extra area that you're required by ASTM and CPSC is about 19 feet. Excuse me, 19 feet. So if I only have 20 feet, that's going to leave you next to no area to add. I mean, the picnic table that's there now, it's portable, which is a good thing. Sorry, let me get back here.
Well, that's okay, but I understand. So I just think that we just need to keep in the back of our mind with this design, these picnic tables are likely being outside the fence, which in my opinion is perfectly fine. There's plenty of space for it, but just something to keep in our heads. Thanks.
Sure. Of course.
Oh, and I also want to add that we are all very intimately we know this playground like the back of our hands. I personally have been there once a week for almost 10 years. So we're just really eager to see the new designs that you have to talk about those. Thanks so much.
No question. So based on that, I will fast forward a little bit based on what is there now and what is going in. I think you've all seen the top views and the renderings, and I know my time right now is 19 minutes, so I'll speed up. I appreciate that suggestion, Pam. So let me get into the renderings as to what the design looks like. So here's the top view. As you can see, the sidewalk is exactly as what's there now, and this whole side is blank because that's where all the new spring riders are going. This area, this piece right here, and this piece right here are also staying exactly as is because that's what's there now and that's what's staying. So what we did was we switched the space of the swings. Initially, the swings were up here. I felt like it fit a little bit better here, but more importantly, I put them this way because when you first walk in, the gate is like around this area. If you just make this little kind of bottom quarter a port in place corner, you can take the path within a mobility device and get right to your ADA 0G swings, which is what I wanted to do. You have benches along the top. You have a bench here. This is a sensory wall, which is essentially perfect for kids with not only physical special needs, but also kids that land on the autism scale. There's a couple spinning seats here. Merry-go-round is right here in the middle. This is a Discovery Cave. This is probably the most popular 2 to 5 piece we have. Here's your main composite unit. One thing that I need to make clear is this green section is PIP. You can make your PIP color any color you want, by the way. But what the rendering doesn't show is a little connection from this ramp, which is an ADA accessible ramp, to this part of the concrete path. Ideally, you don't want a child in a mobility device, or a parent for that matter, pushing a child with physical needs across wood mulch. because what happens is the wheels get dug into the mulch and it's really difficult to traverse across something like that. So if you can get your child to the entrance, which is about this section, come down your sidewalkway. This will have a little section of PIP, which is poured and play rubber surface, which is certainly easy to access across in a mobility device or a stroller, and gain access to this unit right here. We put a musical element in here called the Merry Musical. And I think this is a sign. Yeah, this is a fun fact sign as well as a fun fact sign right here. And that pretty much rounds out the 2 to 5 space. 6 spots to swing, exactly the same as I think what you had there before. Let's scroll through some of the other images. Here's a good shot of the 2 to 5 unit itself. It's got a lot of panels on it. Everything 2 to 5 is lower to the ground. So keep that in mind. You know, you're not going to have 8-10 foot elevations on a 2 to 5 age playground. You have ground level playground elements over here. Interesting kind of roof. The colors can be 100% customizable, so don't worry about that. What I did was I tried to match them up with the existing colors of what's there. That's pretty close to the existing colors of what's there now and what's staying. So I tried to match those because they're staying. Another good shot of the 2 to 5 piece. Again, not a massive piece. These are images of the existing unit right here. I think this is a 6 to 23 month, and here's a 2 to 5. Discovery Cave, like I said before, probably the most popular 2 to 5 piece that I've sold in my 8 years with Game Time. Your swings are in the background. Again, your swings are in a different location. So when you first walk into the 2 to 5, they're going to be all the way to your left. And the reason why is because of how expensive the poured in place material is, and by doing it this way, how little of it we had to use. So that's why we did the poured in play in this front left corner, because the walkway is right there and just makes sense to tie into that walkway and get a child in a mobility device as close to the swings as quickly as possible. So that's why we put the swings on the left. And of course, the sensory wall is also right there as well.
I have another question.
Please.
Like that musical element that you have, is there any way, is that like an accessible structure that we can put closer to the pour and play so that
Yeah, so the Merry
in
Musical,
wood chips?
this piece right here,
no, that's the musical one.
this is called the Merry Musical. This piece right here.
I'm sorry, I thought that you were just pointing to the climbing thing.
So this piece right here is called the Merry Musical. It's
Sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that element that your mouse is on right now. That little musical element. Is that not like, isn't it a flat piece that you can kind of go up to and tinker with?
Yeah.
That's the piece I'm referencing. Yeah, is there a way to put that more, like those spinning things? I don't know how much use they would. Do those need to be on? I don't know. Curtis would know more about this than I, but what do you think?
I appreciate that, Pam. So I was thinking similar things. Mike, when you showed the big climber, there was something that you said was ground level, but there was no PIP to get there. And then to Pam's point, some of these interesting ground level features like the music piece. I see you say the sensory wall is on the port and play which is good, but some of this other stuff which might be interesting to people in chairs is not accessible. So just curious about that. And then the other is that spinner. I had thought we were going with a ground level spinner that you could wheel on a chair or a stroller, but I may be mistaken on that.
Sure. So the Merry Musical piece right here, this doesn't have, I don't think, and I'll confirm it, but I don't think it has I mean, it certainly doesn't have a very large use zone, if it has a use zone at all. A lot of the freestanding panels that are ground level panels, because they're ground level panels and they don't require, or they don't invite kids to climb on them, don't carry a use zone, which means you can kind of place them wherever. So if I wanted to take this Merry Musical piece and put it back here, or put it in parallel to this sensory wall, I need to stay out of the use zone of the swings, but I might be able to fit it right along this back edge or somewhere up here. Although if we put it up here, we're going to have to add a level of PIP to get to it, which I don't think we want to do, just because it's very price prohibitive. You commented on the spinners, the merry-go-round. This merry-go-round is, bear with me 1 second. I think price-wise, it's about $9,600. Oh,
I think it's the same one they have at Mead Park, and the kids love it. Right? That one's at Mead Park, I think.
I
If
agree.
anyone
I
else
think
has been,
so.
yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that one and the other one you guys put in at Mead Park, the one that's got the net, the like rope thing.
Yeah.
Those two are by far the two most popular. Like the kids love to spin.
Right. And the one that you have in your 5 to 12 space at Cherry Lawn is not liked at all because it's so heavy. So that's a key element to keep in mind with Game Time's, kind of track record. Our stuff is usable by kids without parents trying to push or spin the thing. But I'm sorry, I'm just looking for, I was looking for the pricing, but I can tell you, to answer Curtis's comment about this is about I think a $9,600 piece, if my numbers are right. The spinning mobility to the spinning merry-go-round that you can actually wheel a mobility device onto is about 2.5 times the price. And so with the amount of layout of PIP and the cost of what we already have in place for both units or both spaces, it just didn't make the cut. This is still an ADA accessible merry-go-round. It's not, as arduous as the old school one that you and I possibly have grew up on, where it's really dangerous, where as you spin it, you can literally go flying off. It has molded plastic backs. It has an option for belts. So it's way safer than what, I grew up on. It's just not the full level of ADA accessibility I think that maybe you were asking about.
Understood. And then just back to the big climber, to the point about, where we need to have some support in place. You're not showing it on the drawing here, but I'm assuming, as you said, that's going to have to extend up to that ramp. And then I was wondering if it makes sense to have a little bit of an envelope, because if you show again that the side of that has the that you described, the ground level elements, there's no access to them right now for somebody in a chair. And you described perfectly how hard it is to try to take a standard weight child who's in a stroller or a proper manual or motor chair through the wood chips. It's impossible. So,
Sorry,
but these are two-sided panels. So when you're right, from this angle, and again, this is all going to be PIP'd, and there's not a huge section. It just needs to be like this little circle right here, right? I just need to connect the walkway to the path. And unfortunately, my rendering folks just didn't, they just didn't see it. They didn't get the memo. So it's not shown here, but this will be PIP. And these are all two-sided panels. So, right, you can't access it from the outside, but as you traverse into the unit, you'll be able to access it this way, and you'll be also able to access this panel this way. So they are accessible. They're just not accessible visually from this picture.
Yeah, and just a suggestion, a small detail suggestion, being somebody who pushes these chairs around all the time, I if it's possible, I would have the board and play not just go to the ramp, because I think if kids are playing on it, it's going to be nearly impossible for someone in a chair to get up that ramp. There's just not going to be any room for them. So what I would suggest is, you see where the child in pink is standing?
Yep.
I would suggest board and place that kind of lets them go to the left and to the right. So they can even, wheel up to that blue panel on the right in the chair at the ground level, wheel up to the blue panel. And again, not extending a big extra area, but the area around this, at least on this side, so they can at least be in the picture, but not necessarily trying to get up that ramp, because I think it's much more challenging than it might first appear.
I understand, and that's a great suggestion. And we can do that if we want to modify the design. We might have to take that number, because it's going to port in place, as you're probably aware, is extremely expensive. So if we're going to try to do that and expand our PIP footprint, we may have to take an element away if we're going to stay within budget, or maybe we just agree to say, okay, let's kick the budget up 10 or 15K.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there as an observation.
Understood, and I appreciate it. So I'm looking at my clock, and it's 9:14.
Yeah.
So it looks like I only have about 5 minutes. So I'm going to jump over to the 5 to 12, unless there's any other questions on this 2 to 5 space. All right, none being heard. Let's do it. So I know Pam has said that she has visited this park for 10 years. And I don't know if the rest of you have or not, but I'm just going to scroll through quickly some pictures of the 5 to 12 space. Here are the existing swings that are not in a good spot. They're typically, you want the rule of play.
Mike, I just want to let you know, we did have a meeting on site, so I would just skip this just because we do need to get to your presentation. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Okay, so here is the top view of the 5 to 12. So the reason why this space looks a little different from what's there is because I cut out this whole side. And if you remember, it kind of comes down here and rounds about, and there's a big LSI spinner, LSI being just one of my competitors' spinners that's there. It's a globe spinner of some kind. It's a net climber that spins, that's staying. It's a recent purchase. So I left that as is. And this mark right here is essentially giving you your 6-foot clearance away from that spinner. So that's why the design starts here the way that it does. Everything else is exactly within the footprint of what's currently there from a borders perspective. So all this perimeter is exactly what's already there and is what's staying, to my understanding. We have a tire swing here. This is staying. This is there now. This is exactly what's there now. So that's staying. Having the swings essentially right here where they are now is not a good playground design. Having the swings in the middle is the last thing you want to do from a design standpoint. You want the swings on the perimeter. That's what they tell you in CPSI training. CPSI, Certified Playground Safety Inspector. That's what my CPSI thing is. So having the swings along the perimeter is why we put the swings over here. We wanted the ADA accessible unit as close to the pathway that I showed previously as possible, which is why it's there. So as you come up this pathway from the parking lot, you're essentially heading right to this corner. So that's why this layout is the way that it is. The green area is all the PIP, just like in the 2 to 5. Just to kind of focus on this unit a little bit. This unit is, it's a presence. And what I mean by that is this deck right here is 10 feet off the ground. I mean, it's going to be a tall showcase piece. That's why I wanted to do it I didn't want to do one piece that is ADA and then a hybrid into something else that has presence. What I wanted to do was, okay, let's put a 5 to 12 ADA piece as soon as you get to the entrance to the park, which is right here. And then I wanted to also show something that's like, okay, that piece right there is tall. I know it doesn't necessarily come off on the top view, but this is your piece that's going to really have presence. It's going to be like, okay, this is the big kids playground over here. We know that now because of how tall this is. Just to give you some insight, here's your existing tire swing, which is in place now. This is 7 feet to the top. So you can see how much taller this deck is as a standing deck. It's completely enclosed inside. They access it through a climbing element up here. Then you have your fully enclosed, your fully enclosed spiral slide. Doesn't need to be fully enclosed. I have room to expand if you wanted to do that. I have room over here. This document is to scale. So if I wanted to expand and not make it an enclosed spiral slide, I know that was a comment early on. You know, we don't want enclosed slides, and I get it. But being up that high, 10 feet, I would enclose at least the entrance, the transition from your feet to your butt at a 10-foot elevation. I would enclose at least that part of it. You can have a half enclosed and slide, where the first half out of the chute is enclosed and then it opens up. If you don't want to fully enclosed, I get it. Again, I only commented on that because that was an early comment early on. But what else is going on with the 5 to 12? So we have our presence unit. Here's our ADA unit. Fully ramped right up to here. And this is basically a 4-deck section. So it's going to be about an 8x8 or maybe 10x10 type of area that a child in a mobility device can maneuver. And there are different elements to use there as well. There's your ADA swing, all under PIP. Is there any questions on the 5 to 12? Is everybody awake?
No, it's good to get a perspective on the height of the unit, because in the picture it just doesn't come across as really tall. So it was good to get that perspective with the tire swing versus the 10-foot deck.
Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't know why the picture is not coming through as well as it should be or could be. Maybe it's because that this 7-foot height and it's being further back is not really conveying how tall this deck is. But this is a taller deck than anything that's there now. I think the highest deck you have there now is like 6 feet, which is essentially a foot lower than this. Now, there may be some uprights and some roofs that extend higher than that, but you're going to be standing at a 10-foot height. I mean, this is definitely the big kid side of the playground.
I think the big kid side is pretty self-explanatory. These pictures are terrific. All of my questions were about the younger side, so I'm good. Thanks so much.
And Mike, we hate to rush you, but time did get by us pretty quickly.
I know it did. Is there any questions on the pricing? I mean, maybe we can do another 30 seconds, but is there any questions on the pricing? The budget was 500. We came in at 500. There are some caveats there, as you're aware. A lot of the mulch and the fillings, the existing wood mulch and dirt that needs to be cleared out is staying on site. I know there's a garden within 100 yards of the site that I guess the plan was to kind of make that stockpile of mulch that's there now there or close to that. If you wanted to use that for whatever, it's not going to be super clean mulch.
We can discuss that at a later date. Yeah. I think what's most important is the design.
Cool. Well, I am happy to answer any other questions, or we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, unfortunately, our time is up, but we thank you very much. That went very quick, and it
No
was
problem.
great presentation, and I think it did a lot for the design.
Cool.
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for the opportunity,
Mike.
guys. I appreciate it.
It's my-
Take care.
Take
That's
care.
fine. Okay, I'm going to let the next presenter in.
Thank you, Pam.
I think you got to get Mike out first.
Yep.
Good morning, Nick. Oh, you're on mute, or we can't hear you. Although it doesn't seem like you're on mute.
How about now? There we go.
Good
Now you
morning.
have to listen to me spiel.
Yeah. Sorry for the few minutes late, but
Oh,
we're
no problem.
all ready for you.
So,
I think you can share your screen. Yep, you're on the list to share your screen if you want to too.
all right, I'll let's see. Come on. So here is the 2 to 5 setup, which includes the 3 slides, a 4-seat rocker, one of our new pieces, which the name is escaping me, but it's a cool climber that has multiple different shapes to it and access points, so the kids can kind of climb up and around it.
Which piece are you referring to, Nick?
What's that?
Which piece are you referring to?
This the one on the far left by the 4-seat rocker.
Okay, gotcha.
And then we did the port in place routes to access the accessible swing. The spinner was kind of kids can sit in and spin around. And then to the actual playground structure. Is there, and then we have some musical instruments there. Little xylophone and some little drum beatboxes. Is there any questions on that? Anything you want me to kind of explain a little more? Or
Nick, is the fence? Did you have the fence removed, or are you keeping?
No. That was just the way the 3D comes through. They didn't have the fence in it, so we would be leaving the fence as existing. And then that doesn't show it, but we did have 3 benches along the right-hand side.
I have a quick question about that seat. Is that a seat spinner kind of on that top
to the left
appendage
of the blue area?
Yeah, can you put your mouse over that? Is that a seat spinner? Yeah, that right there.
Yes.
Curtis, how realistic is it to have pour and play up to those? Is that a waste of pour and play? Is that a good use of pour and play?
It's a great question. I think what we're learning is maybe concentrating the areas where the chairs are likely to go, concentrating the features where the chairs are likely to go, allows us to save on port and place, so we're not kind of swirling these little trails. But I think that thing over on the left, I don't think that's realistic for someone who needs to be pushed.
All right.
So if we could take this footprint of pour and play and kind of move it around. So if we were to not have pour and play going to a spinner chair and have it more, and also maybe a wider path, so that, you could pass somebody. But I feel like those are details that you can kind of hammer out later, correct? I'm very interested in the actual structure. Okay, thanks.
So we can definitely adjust the routes. We could take out this area and add some more, like I said, to kind of connect over to the. I wouldn't want to bring it in front of the slide because that would just cause some poor interaction. But we could do another route over here connecting up to the musical panels.
Can you describe where the pour and play goes into that structure? How does someone that needs to get on it? I can't see that. If you can, like, maybe can you explode that view or something? It just wasn't sure how someone with mobility issues would go up that way.
So the as with like most all equipment manufacturers, all of the all the structures are made to naturally be accessible. So they have the transition lips, so you could transition from the seat of the wheelchair or from a standing position, sit down, and then move your way up through the structure. Are you muted?
That looks a little challenging, I guess, for someone that does have mobility issues. And this slide on the right of that is that handhold? Like, I'm trying to see, there's like looks like little holes right here on the right of it, in the middle, actually. Is that so that someone could climb up? I wasn't sure. It just
No, that's just kind of a structural, just to give it some more strength.
okay.
Because we don't really want the kids climbing up it, although they will. I never climbed up a slide as a kid, I swear.
Okay. Let's does anybody have any more questions for 2 to 5? Maybe we go to 5 to 12 too, because there's two. He has two pretty. Anybody with questions? We could just jump on to 5 to 12 then, since time is limited.
So here we have right here is a similar structure towards the one I was talking about on the 2 to 5. So you can kind of see a little better the different angles that the kids, a little more challenge for them to move around the piece. And then I think on this one we had 3 slides, 2 over here and another one coming off of this section here. And again, we had the port in place, fairly large area. So, excuse me. So we could definitely remove some of this. Again, you have your access point over here to the structure. We could definitely remove some of this if that's not really what you're looking for. I kind of let the office, the designers, kind of take their liberties with where it should go. And we could definitely.
Nick,
Yep.
Sorry, I have a couple of questions. I think that would be a Curtis question if that's good use of pour and play. But I think that rock climber is like that rock wall climber thing is the coolest looking toy. So I'm psyched about that. Quick question about your swings. Those are new swings, correct? In the upper
Correct,
left
yes.
corner. Okay, so is there
swing?
That's right. So we have the existing tire swing and the existing globe spinner.
Yes,
is there room to add? Is there room to add another swing bay of swings?
We could. I'd have to come back down and take some
double check the clearance.
But we could probably add another bay, I would say.
Okay, well that's a small question. My question is for this big structure. Like I'm looking for something that like my kids are going to be like, this is amazing. So how tall is this? I'm looking for big and cool and kind of a little intimidating. Can you just talk about the height levels that you have on this big structure?
Yeah, I believe it's probably 8 foot tall. I didn't quite look at the exact. Let me see if I can. We've got 3 screens going here. Oh, that's the wrong one.
So my question would be like that connecting net. And then my other question will be about that dual twisty slide thing, because the first thing that comes to my mind is that some kid's gonna like clothesline his head going under it. Can you talk about the clearance and
So they would there's a gap there. I believe it's a 6 foot slide. So there's definitely they and like I said, everybody designs these kind of the same way for safety and through the IPMA guidelines and all that stuff to make sure that there's a relative safety aspect to them. So I don't know if that answers your question or.
yeah,
So
I think it does. I mean, a little bit. Sorry, go ahead.
net climber or the net like walkway that connects both pieces, how long is that? Just to get perspective from, is it 6 feet long? Is it?
Let me see if I can. I believe it's between 4 and 6 feet. I don't know the exact dimensions of it and everything. The like I said, design really takes that over. And
And then the
Well, Nick, can you
semicircle unit that goes straight up, what is inside that? It's hard to tell what that is. It looks cool, but I don't know what it is. What does it
there's
do?
a net climber inside there,
Oh, a net climber.
so they
Okay.
can transfer from one level to the other.
That looks very cool. So, Nick, if you don't have that in front of you, maybe you can just make a list and then email it to Pam, Gary. Like, I would be curious to know exactly how tall both of these sides are and then how long that net is. And then if you were walking under that net that connects, what is the height clearance? Like, if I'm 6 feet tall, am I gonna like bang my head? Sometimes they're 10 feet tall and sometimes they're 5 feet tall. I can't tell from this picture. So that's my question: is what is that
Yep.
under that? So you don't need to tell me right this second, but I am very curious.
Yep.
And Nick, is there a unit similar to this somewhere in Connecticut that we could look at?
Something like this, not really. We did we just finished up a project in Danbury at Morris Street School, but it was kind of a different layout. I can give me a second, I can pull up the these similar pictures of that.
Another question, Nick, do you have a
Yep.
picture of this playground from like the back end? So if you're standing and see, like I see, it looks like a climbing wall on the left on the pour and play. Not that, the back side of the big structure. Do you have oh, you do? Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. Thanks. I really like that this structure has so much going on. It's very cool.
Yeah, we try to maximize the play value per square foot. So it just really, that's what the kids want. They don't want to get bored too quickly. So this, unfortunately, I don't know why it's not very clear, but this is kind of one that we did in Danbury. And then also on the right hand side of this, they did a fitness layout. So it's kind of like, it's not quite American Ninja Warrior, but I haven't done any yet, but we have a warp wall, which is pretty cool. So this is the kind of the fitness area that they did there also, which kind of takes up a lot of room. So I wouldn't think it would fit well in your area, but that's one project that we have in the local area to you guys. We also have that was last year. Come on now. trying to go fast for you.
I just have a quick question also. Is that a
Yep.
bumpy slide, a roller slide that I saw?
Yes, it is a roller
It is.
slide.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. Thank you.
For the cool climbing structure, have you had any safety issues with that? It's very cool and really interesting, but I could see kids falling.
No, that's that really comes down to the resilient surfacing. I believe that's only about 5 foot, 4.5, 5 foot tall. So falling off of that isn't really going to cause any real issues. So here's another one. You can see a little bit better the climbing net that's inside. It's a little bit longer, taller than the one on your structure. But this is another one that we did down at St. Gregory's School in Danbury. So if that gives you a little idea of if you want to go take a look at stuff. We've done another one out in Colchester. That's a little bit of a poke up into the woods for y'all. But that one didn't have as many climbing components. It was more of a larger footprint on the ground. So a lot more transitional bridges, and we did a similar port in place route throughout the playground.
Nick, can you go back to the picture of the of what you're thinking of doing for us?
Yep.
And I don't know who asked that question about the climbing wall, but there's a similar. I mean, it's similar but different. But there's one that comes to mind at Rowayton Elementary, and to me, like I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna have broken arms, and they don't. The kids are so good at it.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to check it out, there's one at Rowayton Elementary, which is nearby on the bigger kid playground. But
How do you spell that?
Rowayton Elementary. ROWAYTON. But it's not as like funky. It's like smoother lines. But I like the edginess of this one. But, can you zoom back up to the full picture that you had earlier? Perfect. Thanks so much. Curtis, is that bumpy slide? I'm just trying to get the best use of the pour and play. Is that just going up to that bumpy slide? Is that good, bad, smart, not?
Yeah, I mean, if it is mulch, you really can't go through it easily, safely. I can only speak for my experience. I don't know. There are all kinds of different levels of physical challenges and supported. I'm sure some kids would love going down those kinds of slides, but right now, you wouldn't want to take the risk of taking a heavy chair or even one of those strollers through that mulch.
And now that I'm looking at it, it probably would make more sense, instead of encompassing the other belt swing, to maybe bring that port in place path over here a little more to the side of the swing, so that you had a place to put a wheelchair.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I think this looks great. I don't have any more questions other than the ones I've already asked. So thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. Does anybody have any more questions? Because we can start discussion after this presentation.
One last thing I'd like
Okay.
to add is our warranty is 100 years on all of the upright posts and everything. They're 5-inch posts, so they're pretty sturdy. I've only seen one quote fail, when somebody took a drill and drilled a hole through it, because teenagers have so much fun. And then we have a 15-year warranty on all of the slide components and clamps and Well, we don't use clamps anymore. I'm sorry. It's all a direct bolt system, so there's really only one way for it to go together. So you don't have any issues with compliance to kids getting trapped, entrapment, or anything like that.
That's very helpful. Really appreciate that. I don't think I have seen many 100-year-old playgrounds around.
Yeah, we have one of the best warranties in the area.
Yeah, usually I think it's the 15 to 20, and then you start having to replace pieces of it that get more wear and tear. So that's a great warranty, and appreciate that.
Yep.
But anyway, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Go ahead. Thank you so much, Nick. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
brought it more to life for us. So thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions? I'm sure Pam can reach out and I can hopefully answer them for you. And if we need to do another Zoom or in person, that's fine with me.
Thank you so much for that offer.
All right. Have a wonderful
Thanks,
day.
Nick.
Thank you.
Nick.
Happy
Thank you.
Friday Eve.
Thank you. Pam, should we just go right back to the update real quick on McGuan, or do you want to go into discussion? I don't know how much time people have.
I'm trying to log out of here.
Sorry, it's okay. You can listen to this part anyway. Pam.
Yes, I can make an update on McGuan. We are waiting patiently for the whirl to be installed. Part of it's installed and the rest of it should be complete this Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's complete, I can then start to arrange and schedule a kind of ribbon cutting.
Maybe we should talk about that real quick, since I don't know if we're going to get much into discussion on the presentations. Are you thinking a weekend day or weekday day? I think it changes, obviously people's availability. Also, we had talked about doing fun stuff around it, and I know Ruth was really enthusiastic. So we could start thinking about those things, because those do take time to plan. And now we're hitting into the colder temperature times, so we're going to want to do it sooner than later.
Well, most likely I'm going away to a conference first week, the week of Columbus Day. So I was back on the 14th of October. So most likely, realistically, I could probably schedule something the third week in October, and I would say it would be on a weekend.
Yeah, why don't we put that in the calendar now? Because I think people need to plan ahead, especially with these fall weekends. Let's get a date done. Otherwise, we're not going to have anything, or you're going to have to get busy with the other events that were coming up for Parks and Rec, which are huge, by the way. But I just want to get something in the calendar so that everybody here can.
Right. So 21st of October is my daughter's birthday, but I think I could arrange getting out here in the morning for, a couple hours. So we could do something on the 21st or the Sunday, the 22nd. I'm wide open. Or we push it out to the 28th. So everyone needs to look at their calendar. I'm sure not everybody's going to be able to make it, but
yeah, the weekend of the 28th might be slightly better for me.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about? Doing a ribbon cutting, like an event?
Just because we have a bunch of people. Like, it hasn't really been official. I know we put the equipment in, but the town wants us to do a ribbon cutting so that we can recognize, especially the donors to the project.
Oh, okay.
And also
and
to
that's
get more
obviously
buzz around the playground too. Once the last piece is in, then we can really kind of let it really go forward. Because right now we're only partially complete, and that was, and then we just had that fence put in by the Lions Club that we want to highlight. So it's a lot of things like that, Pam. I get it. It's been sitting there. Our kids have been playing on it. So I believe it's not quite an opening so much as a celebration of the fact that we actually finished.
And Federal Realty gave $22,000.
Yeah. So let's shoot for that last weekend in October. Because I know that I know that in the future that's much better for So can we just pencil that in, guys? Is it Saturday or Sunday? Do you
28th, Saturday morning. I have something at night I have to be at.
Okay.
Frankly, if you looped something in with Halloween,
Halloween.
and
I was just
kind
gonna
of
say that.
double
Great
dipped,
idea.
Got to make it Halloween.
double dipped on
Yeah.
that, and you get like everybody in town will come to
Well,
it. So if
yeah,
you can
you might
double
have
dip
some
and come up with
leftovers
something.
from Rocktoberfest. Who knows? We might have some of that. That's a great idea, Pam. Love it.
Yeah.
Let's do that actually, because then we'll get
Is the town giving any money towards it? Like, can you do like face painting? I don't know if Ruth is the one that's going to take the lead on activities or how much.
Well,
you guys
anybody
are-
can jump in. I don't think she's fully committed to do it, but I mean, but she was pretty excited about the possibility of it. So
We have a little bit of funding. I wouldn't say,
Okay.
we're going to go crazy with that, but
Right.
we could do like little treat bags, maybe.
Ribbon, huh?
Maybe treat bags, like Pam saying, so people, or you could say people can come in costume. I don't know. We'll do something
Right.
cute, like some kind of. I think it's a great idea. But let's focus on that. If anybody wants to help with that, just let us know, and it'll make it easier. I don't think
I'll
it has to
take
be
care of the
extravagant.
ribbon and the scissors.
Oh, you're so good at that. Okay, that's great. Also, since we're talking, I want to talk about I think we're almost at our end time, and I know probably people already have other things they need to hit, but we do need to finalize our decision. And Pam and I had talked about having a meeting next week to kind of really do that. I think we need to make the decision pretty much
In person or Zoom?
I think
I feel
we're going
like-
to get more people in Zoom versus in person just this time of year, but I could always meet in person because I'm already kind of committed I'm always in town with the kids. But if you think that we can benefit from being in person for the final decision, I'm open to that too. But I do feel like we were there recently, and most of us do use Cherry Lawn pretty actively and know of the park. And I think that I'm not trying to foreshadow anything. I think some of the presentations, you really get a better sense of which direction we need to go with some of.
I can give you my quick opinions on those two things that we talked about.
If people are willing to stay, I'm willing to listen because I don't have anything planned. So would you want to, if people want to stay on as long as they can, and people,
I like to.
Go ahead, Pam Garrity.
Okay, so the first guy, I think his younger playground was awesome. I do not like anything about his older playground. Like it looks like it's just too babyish. There's just no wow factor there. So if you're looking at what was he, Game Time? Game Time. I liked his younger one. I think we need to kind of shift it around, get that musical element where it needs to be. I think those are small details that's not the point of this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the second one, I was a little surprised he didn't have any good solid concrete. Yeah, that's 10 feet high. Like he didn't know anything. So it's kind of hard to say, but I think it had a much better wow factor. So I would, if I were picking out of those guys, I'd say Game Time for the younger and the big exciting one for the other one. But I gotta tell you, I like that spiky one. So those would be, I'm kind of narrowing it down at least, but that's where I stand.
The spiky person has not reached back to Pam to do a presentation, and it's such an out of the box presentation or design that I would feel uncomfortable without more detail and more discussion on that. And so, though I did like it pretty much like you did, I don't know if I would feel comfortable, especially with his responsiveness for just this design phase. If this is happening at design, I know it's just going to get harder at the point where we're actually installing and trying to get feedback on, answers, like the back and forth that you can see.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's a big bummer.
Yeah, it is a big bummer because I really liked it myself. And also, while you're inputting, we did have one done by John at Creative Recreation. And I feel like that's, just remember that also, I know it's been a while since we met, but that's already been done. And he did present to us he had a long period of time to present to us. So just to have that in the back of your minds. But anyway, anybody else have?
Sorry, I have to jump, and I feel like I'd love for us to have another. I like had 5 seconds to shower before I have to show up to my kids' school. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like I'd love to talk about these presentations, and then I feel like if our next meeting we're making the decision, what is that, the 12th of October is our next?
No, it's next week. We made it a special meeting because we
You added
canceled
another
last
one? You
week.
did? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I must have missed that email. Okay.
Oh, no,
so you
it's
guys-
okay. Pam and I
Okay.
basically talked about it.
Okay, awesome. So there's one on the 5th, and that's the one we want to actually make a final decision on,
Yeah,
or we can.
Yeah, I want everybody to really think hard about what their final is for both playgrounds.
Got it.
And
For all three, John.
Yeah.
Mike.
No, I meant
Right.
both playgrounds, like 2 to 5 and 5 to
Yeah,
12.
right.
People can
Okay.
just- Um,
And between
if
the
we could
three.
do that,
Yes.
if we could do that in person, I feel like that just makes so much more sense.
I know. So I mean, honestly, I'm willing to do it. I know for Pam in glasses. It's hard for her between Parks and Recs commission meetings. I know that she doesn't live right in town. So I know nighttime is obviously not ideal, but if nighttime makes it even easier, I don't know. I mean, I agree with the other Pam, and
so you don't even think we need to be in person at the park. You want to be in person, period.
just in person, in a room, in a box, doesn't matter.
Got it.
Like
Okay.
just with the plans. Like I just feel like I know we all have a lot of things, and I know we don't have to go down to the nitty gritty. I think we just need to pick the vendor, right, Pam? And then we can kind of tweak like we did before.
We could tweak at the
We can
end.
tweak, right? But I know obviously, we seem to have a lot of questions that Curtis has been super helpful on when it comes to where the pour and play is ideal. And I know we are so tight on the budget, since they're all going right to that 500, right? And we don't have just 10,000 K just sitting in our back pocket, like for contingencies. So I just feel like, I just think that just doing it in person.
Why don't we then just decide on I mean, Pam, I'm open to nighttime meetings too. I mean, my night times are a little harder only because I wouldn't be free until probably after 7. And, I'm not sure how much time we need.
What about late afternoon, 4 o'clock? Does that work for people?
I think that's even harder for people because people have kids that they then have to do dinner and all this stuff. I'm just thinking, right, Sarah? So I think it's either got to be what we're doing now, or it's got to be after what we're doing, like 7-ish, if that works for people, and like maybe do a 7 to 8:30. Hopefully we could. I think we're going to need a little extra time for this next meeting for obvious reasons. How does that work for you, Curtis? Would that interfere with work?
Yeah. So for me, first thing, like the way we have these meetings is easier because my meetings tend not to get scheduled till late morning and all the afternoon. So this is the best time for me.
Okay, so not the 7 o'clock time wouldn't work for you in person.
Then it's then it's chauffeuring.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. I'm in the same boat.
Activities.
I'm basically the Uber mom and Uber Eats in one, so I get it. So if that's the case, and I feel like Curtis is, a huge part of what we're trying to, I just think the accessibility has been interesting on these playgrounds. And I think I would like to have you there for that reason, because I think there's such big differences in these presentations that your input would help a lot.
And whenever it's scheduled, I can always try, but I'll let you know.
But if we did it in person at 8:45, would you be able to, or 9 or whatever it might be? Are you?
Yeah, I would be able to move things around to make that happen.
Okay. And also, if we did a meeting at town hall, if there are people that couldn't make it, could we do a Zoom for some of those people? And that's your recording too, because that's how we document, remember? So maybe we do that. We do an in-person meeting in one of the rooms in downtown. I mean, in town hall, I meant, sorry. And that people, for whatever reason, if we want their input, but they can't be in person, we could Zoom them in. What do you think, Pam?
Yeah.
So do you want to try that for next week then? The same time as our meeting is planned? But that's hard for people like Sarah. I think she has to run, but who need to get kids still off at this time, it sounds like. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. So
I say we plan it. We plan it. It's a special meeting. We do it at 8:45 like we've been doing, and we give a little grace time for people to get on before we get into it.
And then we just do it in person at town hall, and whoever can't make it can Zoom in if worse comes to worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or call in.
Why don't we just do that? I mean, you're right. We can't, otherwise we'll be sitting here going back and forth. Oh, so-and-so can't make it. It's just the Zoom piece helps those people that can't be in person, I hope.
Patty Baumgartner is asking what day. We're talking about next Thursday, October 5.
Yes.
The special meeting at 8:45 a.m.
Can you see if our room is available? The room that we typically have our
19.
meetings?
Yes.
So that we can Zoom it? Okay. 119. Okay. So why don't we do that? But thank you for your time. I'm sorry, you guys, we're running a lot over late, but we're actually at kind of the pivotal moment in the decision making. And this is, once we make this decision, it'll be easy to fine tune and then be done and go on to the next thing.
Can you just remind me, like, we are okay with doing like half with one company and the other half with the other, right? Because that's how I'm kind of leaning, is kind of piecing these
we can theory, it's
things
just harder, Pam. We can theory, but the reality is that when you deal with two companies, costs may change because they don't have the economies of scale. So they may come back to us and say, you know what, since we're only doing 5 to 12, this piece is going to cost a little more, because we were hoping we would be here to do both pieces.
Bulk pricing.
And then
I get that,
other
but
thing
I gotta tell you,
kind of challenging is mobilization of these people. That's going to be the hardest thing. And Cherry Lawn is probably our busiest park in the group. And for us to say, hey, we have to deal with 2 vendors, and if complications should arise, we're going to have a construction site, and if we have 2 playgrounds that are not ready to go move forward in terms of install and, whatever it might be, and demo, we're going to get a lot of stress. And
is there any benefit to doing like the young side first and then giving it a break and then or are you trying to like close down the whole thing, get both sides done at the same time? What's the
ideally
best case scenario?
What we're going to try to do is do it at the time of the year where we think it's the least busy, right? And we've chosen the time, and if we do that staggered, we're going to hit a busy time for the other playground. And if they have equipment that has to stay on place, like whether it be soil or materials, it's just going to be a mess for a while.
Honestly, it needs to stay with one vendor. I mean, think about 2 different huge pieces of equipment trying to remove these playgrounds. One vendor goes in there with one outfit and removes everything. To work with 2, I think would be a mess, quite honestly.
So I think that if you're talking about, let's just talk about the second guy, Nick from Childscapes. Like if you're talking, okay, so I mean, I have no problem with that older playground, but then there's so many problems with that younger one, like having the pour and play go up and then to a step to get onto that.
I know.
That's goofy. So we would have to go back and be like, okay, you've got to make it accessible. Let's change that step into a ramp. So like those are the details you're saying that we can just
we're going to have to work later.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to have to definitely work that out. And that's those are the trade-offs that we're going to have to make, is that we're going to.
I think we can work with that younger playground from Childscapes. And instead of having like these arms of pour and play, let's make it more of like a usable space. Like we can mess around with that. I don't think that you can fix that older playground from Game Time. I think it is boring and unexciting and like a big letdown.
The third vendor, though.
And the third vendor.
Yeah,
I don't have in front of me because I'm not at home. But
and that third vendor has also been very receptive and helpful. So, and we know him now because we did use him for fun. So that's something to consider. I'm not saying we're limited. I'm just saying it makes the decision. We have to be very thoughtful about it. And it means that we might, if we do one vendor and it's somebody that we might have to definitely work with one. It sounds like everybody doesn't have the best design for both, right? So then we're going to have to figure out who we want to work with to make those changes so that we end up with one vendor in theory. So,
okay.
I mean, let's see where we end up after we discuss in person. I think that's going to be
okay. And Pam, can you be on the lookout and let just forward to everybody if Nick gets back to you with some of those height specifications? That's really what I want to compare to the first guy that we already that from last meeting that we talked to. So that's if he gets back to you with those, that would be great. That's okay.
That's cool.
Okay. Well, I'm good. I don't have anything else to say.
No, thank you guys. You guys were really great at participating and putting in your feedback and asking the right questions. So I think we got a lot of what we needed answered. So thank you so much. So I'll see you guys next week, either in person or on Zoom. Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.